the dangerous skies above Alaska, thick fog puts a chopper pilot's life on the line.
I'm right on the edge of the comfort level.
A mountain rescue turns desperate.
There'll be some anxiety building on the glacier for sure.
And a jet pilot rushes to save a child fighting for her life.
Their lungs are irritated and they're shutting down.
The men and women who risk their lives to fly here are pilots on the edge.
We're on our way, let's go.
These are the Alaska Wingmen. Pilot Dave King's A-Star chopper can penetrate the wildest terrain in Alaska.
I'm going to places where very few people have ever been before.
There he is. See him?
There sure is. Look at him charge us. Look at him stand up and charge us.
Yeah.
For nearly 30 years, Dave has flown thrill seekers and scientists all over the last frontier. But these hills are filled with gold, and lately, his clients have been prospectors hoping to cash in on a modern-day gold rush. Today, a mining company has called Dave in for a rush job.
You want to be over in this brown area?
They need a drill moved, and fast.
Knocking Ranch, and we are eastbound.
Joining Dave is his wife, Debbie, and their favorite co-pilot.
Emily snuggled in.
She was born to fly.
They're heading northeast from their base in Sutton to a gold prospecting camp near the town of Tok. It should take less than 2 hours, but they immediately hit a wall of rain and clouds.
Toughest thing about flying in Alaska is the weather. We have to deal with a lot of varying weather conditions that change rather rapidly. And the more exposure you have to it, the more likely you are to eventually get in an accident.
The cloud cover forces Dave to stay low.
The drill site we need to go to is over there, but there are 6,000-7,000 foot mountains in the way, so we've got to go through the pass and around and come around on the north side where we can get into it. It's ideal to follow a river whenever possible if it's going the same way you're going.
He's trying to get over a mountain range, but clouds fill every pass. And when you're flying this low, there's no room for error.
No, I'm not going to go that route. Boy, we are having to go the long way around, aren't we? It's about 3 miles visibility at best.
Dave flies by sight. If visibility drops much lower, he'll be in danger.
I'm right on the edge of the comfort level.
300 kilometers west, Danielle Doty is taking a plane load of tourists into extreme terrain.
As soon as we cross into the Great Gorge here, we'll be flying over the ice that's about 4,000 feet thick. It's kind of amazing to think that it's all under motion.
Danielle's landing strip has no pavement and is nowhere near solid ground. It's a glacier. And when her passengers get close, they usually panic.
As soon as they can tell you're starting to land, they're looking harder, figuring out where you're going to land. It's usually not until you're 500 feet out that they actually start to figure out that they're like, whoa, that's where we're going.
This is the Kahiltna Glacier on Mount McKinley, the highest mountain in North America. At over 6,000 meters, McKinley, also known as Denali, is a magnet for climbers and tourists from around the world.
It was absolutely incredible up there. It's the one word that I can use to describe. It's just incredible.
Danielle works for Talkeetna Air Taxi, and during the peak summer season flies to Denali up to 6 times a day. And every landing is a gamble.
You are landing on an active glacier, so you don't want to take it lightly.
We have all this snow from last winter up here, but the ice underneath it is actually moving. So it creates all these large openings in the ice.
And that's why bush pilots like Danielle depend on Lisa Roderick.
Hey, I'm just checking in, let you guys know current conditions. Runway's in pretty hard shape right now. It's
From May through July, Lisa lives on the glacier.
Check the runway one last time.
It's her job to monitor the runway and check for crevasses that can destroy a landing airplane.
like a minefield out here. This looks like a big one right here. The planes are just going right over it. And if the plane was going over the crevasse really fast, it could catch one of the skis and cause the plane to flip.
But this is Lisa's last day on the job. It's early July, and within a few short weeks, the glacier will be too dangerous to land on.
When it gets warm out, it becomes dangerous. Our landing area is starting to melt and go away.
It's time for Danielle to pick up Lisa and get all the climbers and tourists off the mountain.
Hey Danielle, is it you flying over base camp?
Yep, I'm coming in to land right now.
Okay, copy that. Winds are calm and psyched to see you.
The glacier is unusually soft, but Lisa gives Danielle the go-ahead to land.
Yay! All right.
Awesome.
Psyched to
We're outta
see
here.
you. Yeah. Well, that's a wrap.
Time to go home.
This mountain actually really needs the cold temperatures, the snow and ice to hold everything together. Without that, it all starts to fall apart.
For the next few months, tourists will still visit Denali, but air taxis like Danielle's will try to avoid landing on the glacier and do scenic flybys instead. But just as Danielle and Lisa land,
All right, back on solid ground.
the air taxi base gets a last-minute call.
Scheduling, this is Annie.
After a week-long hike, a group of climbers have just reached the glacier landing strip. One of the climbers is wheelchair-bound, and the only way out is by airplane.
What is your weather there?
60 to 80% blue sky.
Are you guys packed up and ready, or you still have your tents up?
Danielle can't just turn around and get the climbers. She's already flown too many hours today. And now, the clouds are moving in. Air taxi manager Paul Roderick is concerned.
Okay, stand by. Paul's right here. He's going to give you an update on what it's looking like on this end.
From the lower glaciers, though, I just was up there and they're all plugged up, so we can't get in from down low. Hello?
Nope, I think we lost him.
Are you guys still there? Hello?
I can get across this ridge. Matter of fact, I'm just going to do it.
On his way to a remote gold mine, Dave squeaks through the first pass, but there's one more ahead, and he's running out of time.
Under normal conditions, it would have taken us an hour and a half to get there. It's going to take us an hour and 45 to an hour and 50 minutes total for this trip, because you never know how far you're going to have to go around to get through to where you want to go.
The extra time is burning up precious fuel.
This is why whenever you take off on a venture like this, with weather like this, you want to make sure you have plenty of fuel. Biggest mistake a pilot can make is running out of fuel.
If Dave can't get over the mountain soon, he'll have to abort his mission.
The weather still looks really low in the mountains, so I'm not sure if we're going to get in there yet or not.
He finds a pass through the clouds.
All right, here we go. It's finally improving.
And finally locates the gold hunters.
We're going to set right down next to you, Dusty, there.
Dave's met by Emma Gofton, a geologist for an Australian mining company that's working this drilling site.
There's a lot of weather coming. Yeah, we're 2 hours and 12 minutes.
The pump down there, and this tank, and then this pump here, we're going to move it up there.
The long flight in has put the pressure on Dave. He has to move a 600-kilogram drill rig to a new site before the weather gets any worse. The summer is short, and the miners have just 30 days to find their gold. They're working 12-hour shifts 7 days a week, hoping to strike it rich.
Okay, we're going to be lifting up parts, drill motors, hydraulic pumps, feed frames, down to a pad down here.
Within minutes, Dave gathers up a section of the drill rig.
He's got his load.
We're flying heavy loads on the end of a 100-foot long line into mountainous terrain. And so a lot of times we're maxing out the capability of the aircraft.
But on his way to the new drilling site, the clouds start to roll in.
It's gonna be a little foggy there.
Oh boy, I don't like it.
Dave approaches the drop zone. If his heavy load swings off target, he could crush the miners below.
Well, I hope I can see the drill pad. Give me altitude or give me height, okay? How's it look for you guys on the drill pad? Can you see?
No, we cannot see you from here.
Where are you? Can you see?
Suddenly through the fog, Dave catches a glimpse of the drilling site and the miners waiting for his load.
About 50 feet over.
Step by step, meter by meter he descends, reaching out into the fog.
We got it. Put it down.
Dave got lucky with this first run, but moving the other loads may be trickier.
What do you think?
Why don't you come grab us and we'll all get together and have a meeting up on the staging area.
Okay, I'm gonna set down.
Fog rolled in here, can't see the drill pad anymore, so we're gonna hold off for a little bit.
As hours pass, the fog gets worse. The prospects of completing the mission today look grim.
Right now we are sitting in the freezing cold rain waiting for some visibility.
Geologist Emma is concerned.
We have to start thinking about just getting everyone out of here because we've got 4 guys over on that hill at the moment and then all of us here, so we need people off here before tonight if we can possibly do it.
If the weather doesn't let up, Dave, Emma, and the entire mining team may have to spend the night on the mountain.
Nice and easy.
About 400 kilometers southwest, on the other side of Talkeetna, pilot Don Lee is getting ready to haul a load of lumber into the bush.
See how it's gonna tie up.
But this load isn't going inside his plane.
A guy needs to know a few good knots in his life.
This kind of mission requires experience, but after 35 years as a bush pilot, Don has a lot of that.
I got the greatest job in the world. Get to fly airplanes every day, float planes, wheel planes, other people's airplanes. Did a couple deployments in Afghanistan and got shot, didn't die. Been on fire a couple of times, had an airplane try and come apart in the air. How much fun is that?
Rock on, baby.
Don is the owner of Alaska Floats and Skis, an advanced flying school, but he also hauls cargo for extra cash.
All right, we're ready for start.
The lumber he's hauling today is going to a remote camp 100 kilometers northeast, and the best way to get there is by float plane.
The airplane is really the gateway to the wilderness in Alaska. There's very little infrastructure for roads. I mean, we start that airplane up and you're out there.
The first leg of Don's mission will be tough, but the second half will be even more challenging. After dropping the lumber, he'll fly home with a snowmobile strapped to his plane.
The snowmobile came in here in the 60s, before this airplane was even made.
It's a very vintage snowmobile. It's been sitting in the shed for, 40 years, and these folks want to restore it.
Joining Don today is Mark Tomaszewski, an East Coaster with dreams of becoming a bush pilot. As Don approaches the lake, he spots a problem.
All right, we got some ice here. I'm not real excited about landing on the ice.
Part of the lake is frozen.
Our lake is about a quarter the size of it originally is because of the ice. You want to try to avoid it. These airplanes aren't made to be icebreakers.
While landing, Don must be careful not to let his pontoons get tripped up by the ice.
You know, this load could get away from us. It could start coming undone. It could flip off the airplane. Unfortunately, the consequences are catastrophic. All right, let's get this thing down. Nice, good, no problem. All right.
He nails the landing. But now the ice poses a different problem.
Yeah, Man, yeah. We can't get over to that shore, can we?
If Don and Mark can't get their plane close enough to dump their load, the mission will be a bust.
The unexpected is expected. We may or may not get that lumber off of here.
Hello? Are you guys all right up there?
We have 6 mountain trip clients that are at what's called the Pica Glacier that have been calling us every hour because they want to get out of there.
A group of climbers is stuck on Mount McKinley, and one of them is wheelchair bound.
Okay, Richard's gonna give it a shot and head on up there. No guarantees. Okay, see ya.
Air Taxi Director Paul is hoping his top pilot, Richard Olmsted, can break through the clouds and reach the climbers.
Well, we're not sure whether he's gonna make it or not. There's a lot of moisture being kind of swept up into the mountains from the Pacific right now, so the crux of it is whether we can enter the range or not. It'll be up to Richard to decide whether he likes it or not.
So these guys are ready to come home. See if we can get them. Well, I grew up as an airport brat. My dad was a pilot. I'm the senior pilot here. I've been here longer than everybody except the owner.
Because of the terrain, most of the flying in Alaska is VFR, which means visual flight rules. You know, so you want to be able to see where you're going.
We're looking out the windows to avoid other air traffic, to avoid terrain. So we just, fly by looking outside.
But flying by sight only works in good weather.
We're just going to stay low under the clouds and see if we can get up one of the glaciers.
So the climbers are here, and then we're over here in the valley. But today there's a lot of cloud, we kind of packed in, so it's going to make it difficult, to get into this particular area.
There's a number of ways to get into where we're trying to go today. We'll start with the way that looks the most likely.
If we find some blue sky, then maybe we'll climb up in that.
In the mountains above, 6 climbers are hoping Richard will reach them before nightfall, when temperatures dip below freezing.
Well, this way isn't really looking so good.
But the first valley Richard flies up is blocked by a thick layer of clouds.
One of the dangers of flying in the mountains is actually getting into a cloud. Once you're in the cloud, then of course you can't see the mountains. It's paramount to stay out of the clouds so you can see the mountains. Then you won't have to worry about flying into one.
If he can't get through, the climbers will have to spend another night exposed to the elements.
It's not looking so good. It's not looking real promising. So we have about 2 more options now to investigate.
Every path Richard tries is blocked by clouds.
It doesn't look too good on the other side.
He simply can't get through to the climbers above.
But I still can't tell, if it's going to get us anywhere, if it's just the carrot out there at the end of the stick that'll have to turn around and come back. Every once in a while, you just can't get there.
Richard backs out of another dead end and looks up, hoping for a break.
Oh man, look at that. It's not quite enough to get through. If I could just rocket through there, yeah, that'd work out, but the airplane doesn't do that. Boy, so close, but there's just not going to be enough room to climb it. So we got to get to 6,000 feet to get out of here. There's not going to be enough room to circle out there. Yeah, I guess I don't really see a good reason to keep going here. Can't get through. Guess I got skunked.
He'll have to leave the climbers on the mountain for at least another night.
And that's, really frustrating for these poor mountain climbers, who are ready to come home. There'll be some anxiety building on the glacier for sure. We'll just have to go home and wait for the weather to get better and try it again.
A lot of times you could go 5 or 6 days before you actually get in there to get the climbers out, and they're really, really anxious to get out. And sometimes Mother Nature just doesn't care how anxious they are. They're going to get out when she's ready. And obviously right now, she's not ready.
It's a typical bush pilot thing. Waiting out the weather.
300 kilometers north, on a remote mountaintop, Dave King and the gold miners are hoping the fog will let up soon and allow them to escape the drilling site.
A total feeling of powerlessness.
It's the one place in the world you don't know if it's ever going to clear off.
Right. You could be there.
You sit there and think about it for a day or two and say, and then 3 days goes by, then a week goes by. It's quite possible that it never actually clears up.
Finally, there's a break in the clouds, but it won't last for long.
We're on our way. Let's go.
Dave searches for the best way down.
Boy, that looks doable.
That's from up straight over to campus. You can do it.
He's trying to get to a nearby lodge to refuel and wait for better weather.
Camp here, the other pass is open. Okay, is it clear on the other side? I can see the other ridge, so we'll see. I'm gonna go that way. If I can see down in there, we got it made.
Yep.
I just went a little ways east. I'm almost to the base.
With the help of another chopper, they've gotten the entire team off the mountain for the night. 500 kilometers south in Anchorage, pilot Greg Johnson has been summoned for an emergency mission.
Kind of dropping everything now and heading for the airport.
A 14-month-old baby is in respiratory distress, and it's Greg's job to get the child to the hospital in Anchorage as soon as possible.
Doing a quick general check, making sure nothing looks like it's loose, missing. Fuel caps are all secure.
Greg flies a Learjet, a multi-million-dollar flying ambulance capable of speeds of nearly 1,000 kilometers an hour.
Started flying in 1984. As a kid, I used to basically beg, borrow, and steal to any chance I could to talk my brother and take me flying.
Joining Greg on this mission is flight nurse Wayne Boots.
So we're gonna just go up there and try to see what we can do and get her back here, maybe try to make her start breathing a little easier, a little better.
Wayne's partner is nurse Lisa Wright.
Lisa looks like Sarah Palin, but don't tell anybody I told you that.
I do? Actually, I think she looks like me, but...
I look like my brother. That's about it.
They're heading up to one of the most isolated parts of the state. The sick baby is in the town of Deadhorse, about 1,000 kilometers away. It's oil country, and the medical facilities are severely limited.
We have a little kid that's 15 months old that's requiring oxygen. That's never good for a kid. Unless they have some chronic illness that we haven't been told about, if they require oxygen, it's a sick kid. Hopefully we can get the kid stable enough to get him in the back of this airplane while he's still breathing and still okay.
The team's been given only a little information about the sick baby they're en route to rescue.
We could be dealing with a pneumonia, we could be dealing with an aspiration, we could be dealing with something completely different.
An hour and a half later, pilot Greg guides the jet down toward the runway in Deadhorse.
And runway's about 6,000 feet long, which is about as Roughly about as short as we usually go in the Learjet.
Surrounded by native communities, the town sits on what's known as Prudhoe Bay, the most northern edge of the continent.
We got a bunch of warnings out for caribou on the runway. Oh, yeah.
As they land, Wayne spots an encouraging sign.
Ambulance is here.
All right. That means the patient's probably pretty stable, because otherwise I wouldn't have taken him away from the facility.
But as they offload the plane, they get a surprise.
You guys got the patient with you? No, we don't.
Oh. Okay. Alrighty then.
The patient's condition may be more critical than they thought.
We got to take the ventilator and everything. The patient's not in the ambulance, so the doctor didn't dare let him off the oxygen long enough to get in the ambulance, so that's probably not a really good sign. A kid that requires oxygen, and they'll be there talking to you, breathing, crying, clinging to mom, and then all of a sudden you got a kid that's not breathing. They can crash so fast.
Wish I would have brought my fishing rod. We could have done a little ice fishing.
800 kilometers due south, Don and Mark are trying to break through a few centimeters of ice to deliver their load of lumber.
I can almost reach the bottom here. I am right on the edge of that. Only leak at the top. Yeah, we're getting her.
After half an hour of hacking, the plane is close enough to unload. They need the space. On the return flight, they hope to transport an antique snowmobile.
We may or may not get that snowmobile, but we're going to get this lumber off of here. No, it's not working. Is that going to work? Good enough.
Now it's time to get the snowmobile.
All right, let's walk over there and see what we got here. Got marten tracks here.
Bear chewing away at the cabin. You can see the big bear up here, over here, and one good one right there. It's an old Arctic cat.
That is totally cool. It's not damaged very badly. There's enough here to actually fix up. Look at those little headlights. Ah, little windshield, this is trick.
The old machine reminds Don of when he first arrived in Alaska.
Woohoo! I'm originally from Minnesota, and back in the late 60s, I left Minnesota. I had $7 in my pocket and a jar of vitamins, and hitchhiked to Alaska, and never looked back. Alaska was the last frontier, and it still is. I was hungry for the first 10 years. I didn't have hot or cold, did inside plumbing for 10, 15 years when I was first out here. I lived in the bush for 4 years initially, fly out only, and that's where I learned to fly.
Because the snowmobile is in two pieces, Don will put one piece on each of his pontoons.
Yep. My hand's up. When you put a load on your airplane, you kind of look for where that balance point would be, and you kind of look at the CG of your airplane, and that's where you put it. We are going to face it in the right direction to where aerodynamically it flows through the air the best. We're going to tie it on really good, and we're going to go. That load looks real good. This one looks nice and solid. We're ready to rock. Let's blow this pop stand.
Now comes the tricky part, getting this awkward load back to Talkeetna.
Flying airplanes is a privilege, and with that privilege comes a certain element of risk. You're only good as your last flight.
It's a new day in the foothills of Denali National Park, and the team at Talkeetna Air Taxi gears up for another attempt to rescue 6 climbers stranded on Mount McKinley.
We did try to get in last night, however we had to abort the mission because of weather. So we're hoping that Mother Nature is going to be in our favor today and let us go get these climbers that really want to get out.
Senior pilot Richard Olmsted preps his plane.
Today we're going to try to complete the mission that we set off on yesterday.
But the weather is still a factor.
There was some fog on the lower glacier, which, to get from point A to point B is an issue.
Low clouds between here and the mountains. So we're going to try to, like yesterday, go under the clouds up one of the glaciers and break out into the blue sky.
Well, a lot of times the climbers up there are quite perplexed on why we can't make it in there, especially when the weather's good there. But the weather has to be good here, around the airport, and in the valley. But maybe Richard will get lucky and get on in there.
TAT 05 Romeo is off for the Pica.
Copy the Pica, have a good flight.
As Richard gains altitude, the skies suddenly clear.
This is the valley that we flew up to and turned around. We turned around just right at this saddle on our right side yesterday. All these valleys were still filled with clouds, just all the way up to the mountains. All this was fogged in down to the glacier. And it was frustrating to be foiled yesterday, but you know, it's just the way of the mountains. So now we can see our objective ahead of us there.
It looks like an easy run to Mount McKinley, but today's landing will be more challenging than usual.
So the glacier did freeze last night, so the runway will be pretty rough for our landing this morning.
And without anyone on the ground checking the runway for crevasses, Richard must be extra cautious.
Mount McKinley is a tremendous mountain, but nonetheless, it can be a tough nut to crack, and it really needs to be respected.
On his landing approach, Richard spots the stranded climbers.
Looks like they're all standing by, ready to go.
But before he can rescue them, he'll have to nail a difficult landing on a glacier full of dangerous crevasses.
Good morning. You think we'd never get here?
It was great to see him come through the sky, pick us up, even under tough conditions.
Thank you very much. All right. It's been an hour trying to get here yesterday.
Appreciate your efforts.
They were really happy to see the airplane when it showed up. Well, it always feels really good to get somebody out, especially after they've been stuck, for a while.
Zero Papa Romeo will be departing Pica.
The interesting thing about mountain climbers is while they're excited to get into the mountains to climb, after the climb, they really want to come home.
Well, it went just perfect. Couldn't have asked for it to be better.
20 minutes later, the once stranded climbers are grateful to be back on solid ground.
Fancy seeing you here.
Well, right now I'm kind of excited to change into clean clothes and, eventually have a shower.
Oh, it feels great. Wait to get back.
Oh, it always feels good to accomplish, what you set off to do. Got them back, and they're all happy and on their way to get a beer. These airplanes, they're kind of your buddies. They take you to amazing places, and if you treat them right, they'll bring you home.
Flight nurses Lisa and Wayne arrive at the medical clinic in Dead Horse to pick up a critically ill child. The clinic usually serves local oil workers, but early this morning, Athena, a desperate mother from a native village, arrived.
Hi, are you Mom? I'm Lisa.
Her daughter, 14-month-old Ariana, is in respiratory distress.
When I woke up, I was running all over the place, just calling people, because I didn't know, because I was home alone. It was just me and her.
Physician's assistant Ken Waugh thinks Ariana has pneumonia, a potentially fatal disease for a child.
Were you able to do a chest x-ray or no? No.
And amazingly enough, we just don't have a lot of pediatric stuff here.
Ariana needs to get to the advanced pediatric facility in Anchorage as soon as possible. but the flight will take at least an hour and a half.
She's tight, yeah. When kids are in respiratory distress, they pull so that you can see their rib cage every time they breathe. It's called retracting. It's never a good sign, and her retractions are pretty severe.
There, we're gonna go bye-bye.
Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. So the doctor is pretty scared. She's very tight sounding in her lungs, which means her lungs are irritated and they're shutting down.
Are you ready?
Wayne and Lisa hope Ariana can survive the long journey.
Ready?
Yes. She definitely has the potential to lose her airway. She's so tight and so tired from breathing so fast for so long.
It's morning on the north slope of the Alaskan Range, and Dave King fuels his chopper in hopes of completing the drill-moving job he started yesterday. The weather is still poor, but Dave isn't ready to give up yet. Just then, geologist Emma shows up with good news.
The guys say it's clear right now.
What's that?
The guys say the pass is clear right now.
This pass?
No,
Or-
the valley's where they
Oh, okay. All right, great.
The mission is on. Dave has 2 more loads to move.
Yeah, I've got an hour and 20 minutes of working time, and then I've got a 30-minute reserve.
They've got the engine block and the hydraulic block, which can come fairly quickly. It's just the engine block, the hydraulic block, and that's all there is to move.
Gonna crank up and I'm gonna go down and get the water pump, place it up there. Well, we got a few minutes here.
He gets to work fast, knowing he won't get paid until the job is done, and that weather could shut him down at any moment.
At Alaska, you wait 15 minutes and the weather will change, you know? Maybe better, maybe worse, but it'll change. But you can watch them rolling in, so it's going to be interesting how much they can get done.
As Dave approaches the first drop site, he keeps one eye on the weather and one eye on his load.
The most dangerous thing about this job is exceeding your limitations and the limitations of the aircraft and not knowing it or recognizing it fast enough when you're coming up on one of those limitations. That's what gets most people in trouble, is when they exceed their own limitations or the limitations of the aircraft.
Now there's just one more load to go. But Dave must be careful to save enough fuel to get home.
We had a heavy load coming out, so we didn't bring full fuel, and now we have just enough fuel. I've got to keep the power back and get the best of fuel economy I can. It won't be tight, it'll just be close.
Finally, he places the last drill piece on the pad. But for Dave and Debbie, there's no time to celebrate. The clouds are returning.
Well, we got the job finished. We got all the heavy stuff into place. Get out of here and head for home.
Now they must move fast to get off the mountain before the weather gets any worse.
In the environment that we fly in Alaska, it's very important that anything you get into, you have to have a way out. You have to have a plan, and that's what a cautious pilot will do. There's old pilots and there's bold pilots, but there's no old bold pilots. And eventually, everybody learns that that's pretty much the case.
Moments after clearing the mountains, Mother Nature finally cooperates.
Overall, it was a success. The weather cleared up miraculously.
Amazingly enough, this gorgeous sunshine is actually 9 o'clock in the evening, so.
And here I thought it was 7:30.
Summertime in Alaska.
Look at that rainbow, double rainbow. Oh, right up there, double rainbow. It's always great to feel like you're accomplishing something. It's a wonderful, diverse lifestyle, flying helicopters up here, and you never know what you're going to get from one day to the other.
Halfway to Anchorage, pilot Greg wonders whether 800 kilometers an hour will be fast enough to save baby Ariana.
We were flying the aircraft at maximum speed. There's certain situations that I did wish it would go a whole lot faster.
If Ariana loses her airway, they'll have to perform an in-flight intubation.
Hopefully the ambulance will be there when we land, we hope, because this kiddo's pretty sick. We want to get her to the hospital right away.
Lifeguard there, A1 micro has a 10-mile final 2-3.
Greg calls ahead to alert the airport in Anchorage.
Set up for the GPS approach.
Since we're a lifeguard flight, we do have priority, and certain cases where the patients have a lot of problems, we can get an even higher priority and get first in line coming in for approaches, so there's less delay.
30 minutes later, the jet touches down, and they rush baby Ariana to Alaska Native Medical Center.
Ariana 4209. Okay. They want her to go directly up to pediatrics. Okay.
She actually looks really, really good compared to what she looked like when we picked her up.
With the advanced treatment at the hospital's pediatric center, Ariana will have all the care she needs.
Do you need anything else from me? Okay, thank you.
If you need anything, let us know.
Good luck.
Wayne and Lisa's job is over.
We got the patient to the hospital. She was stable. She did really well, and we turned her over to the proper people so that they can get her better and she can go home. And I'm sure she will.
Over 150 kilometers north, Don Lee is also hoping to get home. With the old snowmobile tied down tight, he powers up for takeoff.
Just want to go real slow through this ice. This ice is 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick.
But the partially frozen lake could make it dangerous.
One thing that concerns me is the length of the water we have here. It's not going to give me a lot of time to feel the load. As soon as you come off the water, you don't just sky up and fly. You keep it right on the water and see what it feels like. If it feels good, keep going. If it don't feel good, put it right back down.
People that took this snowmobile in here 40 years ago, they're probably all dead. Nice bringing new life to old stuff. Kind of like me getting up in the morning.
As the sun begins to set, Don heads in for his final approach.
We cheated death again.
We pulled it out of the woods and we kind of cleaned it up, and it's real exciting to get it back here.
And now it's on its way to be restored, and so a lot more people can enjoy it.
With the mission complete, it's time to celebrate.
Oh, come here.
Can you tell I love her?
That's right. She loves me, no matter what she says.
This is really a fun business. Flying airplanes is a blast, but it's a serious business. And it's the dichotomy of the seriousness of it and the absolute freedom and fun you have with it that makes it so challenging and so fun to be involved in. A job done well. We survived it.